So you're successful. Tell me, how have you done it? How have you done it? Well, first of all, what is it that you do? What are your businesses?
So I'm a partner in a law firm, and I specialise in divorce and
Okay.
finances.
Yeah.
And
So
I
there's a lot of
also-
money in divorce, I'm assuming, because a lot of people get divorced nowadays.
Yeah. 1 in 2 marriages end in divorce.
Oh, wow.
So every wedding you go to is 2 potential clients.
That's crazy.
And I get invited to a lot of weddings. So it's good. And then I also own, with my wife, an Italian restaurant,
Okay.
which I started off as a pot washer in.
Oh, wow.
And then eventually bought it about
Okay.
5 years ago.
Okay, so, where did it all start for you then? So what was your sort of growing up life like? How was, the home life? What was your first job and all the rest of it?
So I come from Rotherham, a place called Romarsh, which is notoriously rough.
Okay.
I grew up on a council estate with my mum and my 3 sisters. My mum's boyfriend growing up was in and out of prison, drug dealing, and my dad became addicted to heroin. So I really saw the worst of people.
Especially from drugs. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. So one of my most vivid memories of child is my grandpa used to collect Disney videos for me, and I remember coming home one day and they'd all been sold.
Oh, wow. Just for money?
Just for money. Just
For
a bit-
drugs, I'm
just for a bit of
assuming?
cash, yeah.
Wow.
And I remember pressing eject on the video player and The Lion King was still in. So somebody's got an empty box for The Lion King somewhere.
Oh,
but,
wow.
I've still got the video. I've saved it.
And are we talking heroin? Are we talking,
heroin.
right, so the
Yeah,
hard
heroin.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And consequently, my mum struggled with her own mental health. And there was a lot of tough elements to it. But notwithstanding all that, I had a really happy childhood.
Really?
I was never hurt or harmed. I always felt really loved. And I think as a consequence of that, I got to see the best of both worlds.
Yeah, of course.
So I've been able to bring all that into what I do now in terms of divorce and family breakdown.
Yeah.
But also it's motivated me because my number one driver is I don't want to end up back there.
So you have the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to go on a council estate again.
Absolutely.
Really?
So if I went to see a counsellor and they said to me, what drives you? I'd say, I want to be able to pay my bills. Because the biggest fear for me is that somebody comes and takes all this away.
Really? So they take the big house, they take the fancy stuff,
Yeah,
right?
and it's only 15, I was talking about it last night, it's 15 years ago I still lived in that council estate with my mum.
Really?
And I'm very lucky that I'm now in a beautiful house, got a beautiful family, great career.
Yeah.
But it's only 15 years ago that I didn't have all that.
So it's only a short period of time, sort of
Absolutely.
thing. So where do you think this work drive has come from? Where do you think this burning desire? Is it just, I do not want that life anymore?
It's fear. It's
Really?
fear. It's fear that drives it. But it's not a fear as in, it's constant. It happens little moments where, for example, I'll be in a restaurant and my card, the Wi-Fi might connect and my card will decline. And I get this panic. I feel like somebody's whacked me with a sledgehammer because I think, oh my God, I've got no money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to pay my bill tomorrow.
Do you get that if you buy something expensive as well? I've bought my missus nice watches and things and fancy cars in the past, and I think, oh, my account was that and now it's this. Oh, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm really lucky that for as long as I can remember, we haven't had to say no to anything, which is a really privileged position to be in. We want to go on holiday, we can go on holiday. We want to buy a car, we've been able to do it. And that's, I don't pretend that that's not a luxury.
Absolutely.
Mine's these little things like if a brown envelope arrives.
Oh God, like tax man.
Yeah. And I think,
The tax man, no.
or sort of, I remember when I was younger, my mum again really struggled with keeping on top of finances. She didn't have any choice. It was feed the kids or pay the bills. She didn't have that luxury.
Wow.
So I remember when my first job was in a chocolate factory packing selection boxes when I was 15.
Okay, 15, right.
I'd get picked up by a minibus
Yeah.
with all the dads on the estate,
Right.
and they'd all take me under their wing. We'd go off to Pontefract.
Yeah.
Because I had the littlest hands, I'd put the curly whirlies in the tray because that was the smallest chocolate bar.
Really?
And I think I'd get 25 quid a day, 125 quid a week.
So what's that sort of work out of hourly rate? Because nowadays, I mean, people are on 8 quid, 9 quid, £10 an hour minimum.
It will have been about 2 quid an hour or
Yeah,
something.
well, I remember working up at the Huntsman up the road when I was like 13, washing up, and it was like literally 3 quid, cash in hand. But I truly do believe that is where the work drive comes from, because once you've been paid nothing, let's say you didn't do the cutlery, you didn't polish it properly, they'd throw it all back in. It was the hardest work ever, and you just kind of got accustomed to graft. Didn't you?
But I think back to those times. I've never been as rich as I was then.
Oh, really?
'Cause I was
Wow.
15.
Yeah.
And I was getting 125 quid a week.
Yeah, God, it
All
seems
my
like a
mates
lot.
were doing one shift at the coffee shop.
Or doing paper round or something, yeah?
And I'd go to Rotherham Market, I'd buy 2 pair of jeans for 20 quid. I'd go to the cinema, I'd get myself a McDonald's, and I'd still got change.
Wow.
And as I got older, I went to work, did more jobs. And then I had 3 jobs from being 15. I
Right.
worked in a bar, I worked in a hotel bar in the mornings doing the breakfast shift. And then I worked at Top Man in Meadowhall.
Wow.
And
so you just did any job just
any
to
job,
earn money?
any spare time
You
I
weren't
did.
too good for anything?
No,
Yeah.
no, God, no.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I'd sweep the toilets.
Yeah. This is the thing that I think people have problems with nowadays. A lot of people say to me, especially the younger generation, let's say like 17, 18, oh, there's no jobs. I could literally go down to Costa tomorrow and just get a job. I'm not pouring coffee. Where is this like, I'm too good for it come from?
Well, I did that, and it's interesting. So I'm a lawyer, right? It's an elite profession. You get people from all walks of life, but a lot of lawyers are from privileged background. There's no escaping that.
Right.
And I remember I was working in Costa in the Holiday Inn,
Yeah.
right? And it was across from a law firm. And every summer, the new interns, the trainees would come, and they'd be put up in the hotel, and I'd serve them breakfast, and they would be so arrogant and so rude.
It's awful, isn't it?
And I made the mistake once of saying, "Oh, I'm going to be a lawyer as well."
Oh,
and
God, they laughed at you.
the jeering that I overheard as I was walking away, and I was mortified. I was crushed.
But did that not give you fire? I'm going to prove you.
Well, it's funny because
Yeah.
some of those people didn't even complete the training.
There you go.
And again, that used to drive me, but I've matured a lot in my approach to that, because what I've come to realise is they didn't know any better. There's no, there's
They
no
were bored with
obligation.
their life, probably. Yeah, do you know what I mean? They were bored and they thought, right, he is easy target.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
But I loved, and I say to people now, I learned more serving coffee about how to interact with people than I ever did on my law degree.
Absolutely.
Because that's just reading books.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Because I truly do believe that social and personal skills are some of the most important things ever. You know what I mean? How are you going to get clients if people aren't going to speak to you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And people, the nicest compliment I ever get is, "You're not like a lawyer." Clients
yeah,
say to me, "You're more like my friend," and I say, "Well, I'm a really expensive friend, but
Yeah.
I'll be your friend. I'll talk to you at 1 a.m. if you want.
That's it.
But you've got to pay for it."
Yeah. So what was the transition up the ladder to actually being a partner in the law firm then? Was it just lawyer and then just kind
No,
of climb the ladder?
so you do 4 years of, well, you do your undergraduate degree, you do a postgraduate degree, and that takes 5 years, and then you have 2 years training.
Okay. And that's in a law firm.
In a law firm. But I I finished my education in a recession in 2009.
Wow.
So there were no jobs.
Of course, all right.
So I applied for this paralegal job, helping people that had been abused, and thought, God, I don't want to do this. I want to be a business lawyer. I want to be commercial. I want to do the big deals. I want to make the money.
Yeah.
And then on day 1, I got sent to court to represent a wife whose husband had stamped on a jaw and broken a jaw and just left her in a pool of blood. And I got her an injunction, which meant he couldn't come back to the house. She was protected. And from then on, I never looked back, because I thought, this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah, amazing.
Because I'd seen it all growing up.
Yeah.
I'd seen my mum get...
This is my way of helping.
Yeah, I'd seen my mum get run over by a boyfriend when he was high, he broke a leg. I'd seen all that. And then what you can do in family law is you don't then just stick to that. You start looking at people with businesses. You start carving up the businesses, doing deals, looking at the tax implications of divorce, representing people with multinational companies. And I've climbed my way up. So now I'm representing footballers, business owners, sports people, gold medalists, people who've had one night stands and ended up with a kid out of it, and it suddenly cost them £1 million.
Oh, wow.
That's the juicy stuff that I get to do now.
Yeah.
And I love it. I
Really?
absolutely love it. And I think there's a real key to success, and that's actually enjoying what you do, finding what you do enjoyable.
Even though you didn't really thoroughly enjoy the jobs when you were a kid, growing up, all your hotel, serving people breakfast, chocolate factory and stuff, you're now, I suppose, lucky to have a job, right? I get you. But you would, if you lost your job tomorrow, you wouldn't be too good to go back to that sort of work.
No. And what I love about the restaurant and having that, so lots of people say to me all the time, why on earth are you serving tables when you're a lawyer in a...
Yeah, because you do, you're lawyer.
And I say, why not?
Yeah.
And they say, well, why would you be just a waiter? I say, what do you mean, just a waiter? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What makes me too good to wait tables? Because it doesn't. I'm going there tonight, and the chef's on holiday. I'll be serving up carbonara.
Yeah.
But I'm not bothered about that. I actually enjoy it, because you you exercise, you have hobbies. I know that your hobbies are work,
hobbies.
but you like your cars, don't you, for example?
Yeah, that's it.
I don't have a hobby. I've never played sports. I grew up with three sisters. There was no football in my house.
This house looks like a hobby.
Yeah, I love it. I love
the house,
it.
real estate's your thing.
But the restaurant for me is my therapy, because I go and I close that door and I'm just a waiter.
Yeah, because this is where you might do some of your work in your office, and then you see your escapism.
Hardest question somebody says to me is, can I have no mushrooms on my pizza? I say, yes, madam. Absolutely fine.
Really?
It's the easiest job ever. And my sister works there, my mum works there, my brother-in-law works there, my wife's there. We sit down and have a meal at the end of the night together.
Nice.
Being there, again, I enjoy it. It's like being at home.
Yeah.
But at work.
Wow.
So I'm getting paid to be with my family, to eat nice food, as you can tell.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. I absolutely love
have
it.
you actually employed your family then?
Yeah.
I bet that's
the reason
really
I
nice
bought
feeling.
it is because my family worked there.
Oh, wow.
So when they were selling it, I thought, well, there's nobody else going to treat my family as well as I will.
Yeah.
Why not? Why don't I be their employer?
Yeah, wow.
And actually, the most difficult employees I've got are my family now, because they're the ones
so
who
hard.
complain the most.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Have you ever had any monetary fallouts with family? Because that can. Oh well, that's incredible.
I think we're really lucky that we're all from a family that understands that there's so much more to life. We've all been through horrendous experiences together, and I don't think money would ever come between us. And I'm, as much as I'm driven, I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by feeling like I'm doing a good job and feeling better than the guy I was yesterday. And I know that's a bit cliche, but it is true. I want to be improving. I want to be improving the lives of the people around me. I want to be able to provide for not just my daughter, but my family if I can. So even little things like paying for my nephew's swimming lessons and stuff,
Nice.
where money's a bit tight for my sister, that kind of stuff. I'm really lucky I can do
Does that bring you happiness then? Treating others?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, and I said to somebody this morning, actually, I said, my sky doesn't need to be blue for the sun to be shining for me. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
If you're okay,
Yeah.
I'm okay. And I think that's, again, as a product of other people not treating me like that when I was younger.
Okay.
I now want to make sure that people are better off.
So, I mean, you seem like a happy person. Are you happy with all this work you're doing?
So my wife will often say to me, when is it going to be enough? When
My
will you
missus
stop?
says this all
When
the
will
time.
you stop?
Yeah.
One day it's got to be enough. And I say, I don't think it ever will be. I don't think I will stop. So I've been looking at that empty unit on the corner that was Edinburgh Wool Mill for about a year now, saying that could be our next restaurant. And
Yeah.
and
So
she
the
goes-
brain's
she
always
goes,
going.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
my missus is saying, oh, gym number 3. Why do you want gym number 3 when you've got 6 other businesses and this? Do you know what I mean? Like, you invite stress into your life,
Yeah,
don't
you
you?
do.
Yeah.
But it's as long as it's healthy stress, you can have healthy challenges, can't you? Or you can have the ones that consume you. And I think as long as you can sense check yourself periodically and go, right, you're having a bit of a wobble now. And I know when it's coming now. I've learned I get that little feeling in the pit of my stomach where I have to go, right,
I'm doing too much.
just take a step back. And you only have to do it for half a day.
Okay.
But
is that what you do? Do you clear your diary? Because this is something very helpful to me, because this is obviously all about, learning from people like yourself, how to manage it. Do you know what I mean?
So what I find is a lot of what you do, a lot of the projects that you're doing, that I'm doing, are long term. So there's no instant result. So you start off on this path and you think, where am I going? I know where I want to get to, but it's taking ages, and you get frustrated, and then you want things to be quicker.
Tomorrow, today, now.
And then you think, I'll chuck some more money and that might speed it up.
Yeah.
Doesn't. Just makes you more stressed. So what I'll do periodically is I'll go, right, I'm just gonna have some me time. It's really hard. That never gets turned on, that TV.
Really?
I don't watch TV.
Okay.
I don't read books. I don't play sport. So what I'll do is I'll just get my dog and I'll disappear for half a day.
Really? A phone off or phone on?
No phone, no
Oh, right,
nothing.
really?
I'll just
Wow.
take myself for a walk
Right.
or for a long drive, and the dog will sit next to me.
Yeah.
And I just use that time and I'll blast some music out and I'll
Okay.
listen to some 90s crap music.
Is that just so you can't think about work?
That's
'Cause
my therapy.
Honestly, I drive around in complete silence and my brain is just going. Do you know what I mean? And people will see, people like us, I think, and they'll go, oh, nice cars, nice houses. I bet they're never stressed.
Another tip that I'll do is I'll embark on a project that's got a quick win. So for example, if I'm sitting really stressed, I'll think to myself, I'm going to paint this room.
Okay.
Because
Even though that's the most expensive paid job ever, because your time per hour is probably $1,000.
Yeah.
This is going to cost you could pay 250 quid for someone to paint
Yeah.
it, but you want to do it.
But when you're focusing on painting or
I try wash the cars actually
Yeah,
to do this, Because instead of paying someone, I think, oh, well, I can't play around on my phone. I can't think about work. I've got to think about not scratching the Ferrari.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
So your concentration is on that particular thing. And somebody suggested to me, and I don't know if you've tried this, somebody suggested ASMR, which they're like 20-minute videos where it's like a simulation of a haircut, not that I need one, or like a dental appointment.
Right.
When you're in these situations, you're concentrating on what the doctor's saying to you or what the dentist is saying to you. And there's like a sensory response in your brain that focuses on the words and the sounds in the room. And what it actually puts up a blocker to you thinking about other things.
Really? But then surely once that task is finished, you will then go back to thinking about work.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's enough brain relaxation for you then to refocus?
No, but it's good to get to sleep. So if you
Oh,
put it on for
really?
20 minutes before you go to bed, if you struggle to wind down at night,
honestly,
stick your earphones in. And
it's like a science project for me to go to sleep. So when I first opened my first ever gym, I mean, bearing in mind, I was doing like 80, 85, 87 grand a year personal training before I opened the gym. And I thought, oh, I'll just get to the 100 grand. And then I ended up losing like 150 grand in the first 3 years because you're just playing with this business going, oh. So I was prescribed Zopiclone tablets from the doctors because I couldn't switch off, couldn't sleep. So they give me sleeping pills. And now I literally have one of them wake me up alarm clocks with the light to wake me up. I've got the meditation headphones. I do breathing exercises. It is literally a nightmare if I don't have my headphones because I've got to do everything. I have literally turned sleep into a job. Do you know what I mean?
My job's obviously quite stressful. I'm dealing with, I get called up and sworn at by ex-husbands and wives all day, every day. I'm in court, banging my fist on tables, calling the shots or whatever. And I used to keep an elastic band around my wrist.
Oh, really?
A therapist said to me, if you just ping it on your wrist, it just brings you back into the room. Or she used to say,
that?
Not necessarily for me, because I actually think I need to be stressed out in that environment. I need to be anxious.
Positive pressure.
Yeah, if I don't feel stressed, I'm not going to work as hard or try as hard.
Makes sense.
But we've all got these little quips and quirks, haven't we, that kind of keep us on track.
Yeah. How did COVID affect you? Did you lose money? I'm assuming the restaurant lost money. I'm assuming
So when you're a solicitor, you're not allowed to be bankrupt. You can't practice. And obviously we bought the restaurant with a commercial mortgage. Right. So for 2 years, it was so scary because if the restaurant had gone under, we'd have been struck off the solicitor's roll. So we'd have had no restaurant, no careers, both of us, because we're both in the same job. No home because we wouldn't have been able to pay the mortgage. We'd have lost the business premises because that's all wrapped up. So we would have gone from having
everything to
£1 million worth of assets to having nothing overnight with an 18-month-old baby, with a new baby because she was born in lockdown. And I would have ended up back on that council estate. So it was really scary. And say what you want about the government, but they did us a massive favour because the furlough pay paid my family's wages.
Yeah,
bearing in
perfect.
mind they were relying on me as well.
Yeah.
We got a mortgage holiday, we got the bounce back loan to service the utilities because you still have to pay your gas and your electric.
Yeah.
We were doing takeaways through lockdown to try and just get enough in to service the surplus funds.
So did you not actually lose then?
We didn't lose it. We came out all right.
Wow, really?
But it was through careful management.
Yes.
We were lucky that we weren't drawing a salary from it.
Of course.
That's a privilege to have a business that you don't rely on for your own income.
Of course.
It's really lucky. Divorce rates shot up in lockdown
because
people were all of a sudden forced to be together.
Yeah, because it's not natural, I don't think. I mean, I love my missus so much, but I mean, we survived it, so we must be doing something right. Do you know what I mean?
But you've got to have space to breathe, haven't you? And space to be able to come home and say, "What did you do today?"
I literally went to the gym and painted literally every day. I'm not joking you. I was closing my eyes and I was like picturing brushstrokes. And then people were calling the police because everyone loves to hate me. They were calling the police and saying there was like mass gatherings and personal training sessions. And I'm like, if I'm going to do personal training, I'll go up and use some tennis court somewhere in the middle. Do you know what I mean? Not the gym. You know what I mean? So the buggers. Have you ever lost money in business then, i.e. like with a bad business decision and all the rest?
No, but I've been through processes where you've had to make people redundant, for example.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of lockdown, my business, my firm, they were ahead of the curve, and so they looked long term and said, okay, what's the impact of this going to be on the business, on the investment side of it, and so they made the tough call and they made a massive proportion of the company redundant. And sitting there and having to say to somebody,
oh God, yeah,
I'm really sorry,
we're gonna have to let you go.
And it's awful, but it taught me a lot. I was a new partner at that stage. It was one of the first tasks that I had to carry out. I was the henchman. Everybody hated me. I'd just come into the business, and all of a sudden I'm just wielding this axe, chopping people's salaries left, right and centre. But what I thought to myself at the time is, think about the people that you're saving. You're saving more jobs than you're cutting. You're putting a solid platform down to build from. And we took the department from a zero profit department when I joined, and this year we'll make 50% profit. We'll turn over 3 million. It's a 30 million turnover firm. We wouldn't have been able to do that had we not made those tough calls at an early stage. That got us through COVID. It meant we could build out quite quickly afterwards, and we're flying now. So it's great.
Amazing.
It's really
amazing. Good. And does it pay well from, does it?
Yeah.
Is it
so being a partner in a law firm, you will end up in the top 2% of the population.
So we're talking 100, 200 grand, 300 grand.
Yeah. I remember
money.
when me and a guy who I'm good friends with, he's now a sports agent. We wrote down when we were Christmas temps at Top Man, what salary would you be happy with?
Yeah, this is interesting. As a kid, what did you
And
put?
we were 16.
Yeah.
We a bit of till roll, and we both wrote 100 grand.
Oh, really?
So we both had the same figure in mind.
Yeah.
But when you hit that, you want 200 grand.
But this is it. Yeah.
And it's never enough. And it's not to do with greed. I always say
it's progression.
However wealthy you are, you will never not be skint. Because as you grow, you buy a bigger house, so you have a bigger mortgage, you have a bigger car, you all of a sudden want to privately educate your child or whatever. We don't have any spare cash in the bank at the end of the month.
Yeah, because it goes on businesses or it goes on
we
assets.
just put it back into servicing this machine that's around us.
Yeah.
And you become part of that team with your partner where you're pooling your resources. And honestly, sometimes my wife will say to me, "Have you got 100 quid?" Because I've we'll it's only 100 quid, and I think to myself, God, we earn all this money. Why are we?
Why? Yeah. Why are you cash poor? I suppose.
But we don't go out and buy
crazy stuff.
We just literally put it into the restaurant, or we'll give people a pay rise because you give them a pay rise, they work harder.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We don't do it for us. We do it, as I say, to keep the team of people and our family around us.
It's amazing.
Solid. And having that, I think, is the key to it working for me anyway. If you're on your own and you don't have that network around you of people to strive for and to look after you, what's the point in it? What is the point?
So let's say you lost everything tomorrow and you had 5 grand to your name. What would you do? Where do you think you'd start? Do you think you'd build up some cash assets by working some random jobs and go and?
Yeah, I mean, I would never not be employed. There's no chance on God's green earth that I would ever sit there and go on benefits. And that's not a criticism. I was raised in a household on benefits. That's not a criticism.
Yeah.
But I would kill myself in terms of
it'd eat you up inside.
Trying to.
Yes.
And I'd walk down the road.
Yeah.
And say,
any job.
What can I do?
And then would you just build up a bit of a pot and then maybe? Yeah.
That would be me.
Yeah.
I would be thinking about, is there anything that nobody else is doing? So last year I was the first solicitor ever to represent the husband and the wife in a divorce. Because I thought to myself, how can I do something that's different? How can I differentiate myself in the market? There are 6,000 family lawyers out there. How can I be the best one? So I won an award that was like Divorce Lawyer of the UK in 2017, and I thought, well, that's 5 years ago now. I need a new award.
Yeah.
I want to know that I'm doing well.
Wow.
So now I've got all these people who are saying, hold on a minute, why would I pay 2 lawyers
when I can pay 1?
5 grand each when I can pay you 6 grand for both of us and
Insane.
save 4 grand overall?
Wow.
And so now I've got this influx of people coming saying, we want you to act for us both. We want you to do. So my kind of next project is I want to change what divorce looks like.
Right. Simplify it somewhat.
Yeah. So if I lost it all tomorrow, I'd probably go, right, I've got this product. I'm one of the only lawyers in the country that does it.
Yeah.
And I'd just stick my hand up and go, anybody want a divorce?
Yeah.
Anybody miserable?
Brilliant. Anybody miserable.
Yeah. So there's, and with the restaurant, again, we're lucky that we've got a reputation. People still come. They support us. If I got 5 grand, I'd go and buy a van, cut a hole in it, and sell pizzas out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We're having a party in a few weeks, and I've got a guy who's charging me 800 quid for 65 pizzas for my little one's getting christened. You know, that's easy money. You could do that 5 days a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably make more than me.
Yeah. So, would you see yourself as successful? You clearly seem happy, which is great. So, do you think you've ticked the box yet, or do you think?
I think I've got more to go. I think the difficulty that I've got is that I've done so much in quite a short space of time. I'm only 35. I know I look old.
Okay, yeah, wow.
So I've got 35 years to go, and
You're only halfway.
I'm not going to stop. I could not do this job for 35 years and be happy in the same place. So I'm thinking, you know, should I try and be a judge?
Which is, I'm assuming, more money again.
Yeah, well,
So
it's not actually. If I was a judge, I wouldn't get paid as much as I do now.
Right.
But it would enable me to do other things because judges work from 8 until 4.
Oh, wow.
So I could finish 4 and then I could go and have another restaurant from 6 o'clock. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So I think there's all sorts of stuff.
Free some time up, because time is the most important thing in any theory.
Yeah, well, I nearly, you know, the vintage shop opposite the Sainsbury's in town.
Okay, Huddersfield.
It's now like a second-hand shop, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to open up an interior shop on
Really?
the side because I know a lady who's got one, and I said, look, I've not got time to have a full-time third business.
Yeah.
But you've got one shop and you could probably do a
another.
shop and a half. So
Right.
why don't we have half each, and we'll start and sell candles and cushions.
And did you research the markup on such products?
Yeah, went into it all.
Okay, and it's sort of,
looked at
right,
the
there's
rent on the-
some profit here.
I would have done it, and then it was just not the right time because we got the baby.
Yeah.
We were just coming out of COVID with the restaurant. I'd just been promoted, and it was probably just a little bit too much. But I will do it eventually.
Are you still in this balancing act then? Because one thing that I really do worry about is time with my kids. Obviously, I've just had another, and growing up, all I remember my dad doing is working himself literally to death, and I didn't really spend that much quality time with him. So I'm worried that I'm going to do the same. Do you know what I mean?
But think about it like this. I don't know you that well, right? But I know how much you cared about your dad, and I know how fondly you think of him, right? And I've seen you post about him, right? Imagine you'd spent all day every day with your dad, and he was always on his phone, and he wasn't present when he was with you, right? You wouldn't think about him in the same way, would you?
No.
So
you're
I
right, yeah.
think as long as when you're with your children,
It's quality time.
yeah.
Put the phone down,
So I
focus.
picked Mel up from school, and that willow tree in the garden, the first thing we do is we go and sit under it, and we watch for the birds, and we watch 101 Dalmatians.
So
'cause
this
she
is
loves-
like a ritual almost.
Yeah.
Really?
Because when I'm with her, the only person I belong to is her. I don't belong to my screen or my clients. She's mine and I'm hers, and that's our time together. And I'm very lucky in my role. I speak to a lot of psychologists, and they say to me, as long as your child knows that you are with them when you're with them, that will give them security. It will make them feel properly attached to you. It will help them have proper attachments when they're older, because they will, expect those quality relationships. And it's all about quality over quantity. And I say that when I'm representing dads who've split up with their exes and they're not seeing their children. I'll say you're going to be their dad for the rest of your life. And if you don't see them for the next 6 weeks or 6 months, but you make sure that when you are seeing them,
You're there, you're present.
there,
Yeah.
you're not constantly slagging their mum off. You'll be the one that walks them down the aisle when you get married. You'll be the one that's clapping for them when they graduate. Do you know what I mean? So it's that making sure that making it count, isn't it? And if you are time poor, like we both are, there's nothing more valuable, is there? So those moments, if you don't let yourself be in them, you're robbing yourself. You're robbing yourself of the most expensive asset you've got.
Well, I have tried to do this recently because my phone, caused me a lot of anxiety. So I've been trying to put it on, do not disturb, putting it face down somewhere, so to like almost double secure it. And then I've been trying my best to focus on her, because Harriet said, she's going to think all you're doing is phone. I'm like, yeah, but all these staff, I've got like 38 staff I need to keep an eye on, do you know what I mean? And I'm trying. So it sounds like you have really mastered it though.
Because I probably had different parenting experiences to you. So one of my main drivers, if somebody said to me, what was your purpose on this earth? I'd say I was put on this earth to be a dad. And I knew that from being a child.
Really?
I knew that I was going to be a dad. And actually, when I became a dad, I felt like I'd become what I was meant to be.
Really?
And all the other stuff was just stuff.
So it wasn't like, let's just earn loads of money and put it to a side. It was, let's just be a badass dad.
Yeah, and to do that, to be able, I want my daughter to come home one day and say, Daddy, can I go to this place? Or can we go to see this together? Or I've had this job opportunity, but I need to
help her.
I want her to come to me with all those things, and I want to be able to say yes. And you need to have money to be able to do that, and there's no two ways about that. I know, because I didn't have it. So I remember coming home from school and saying, Mummy, can I go on the trip to Germany in year 9? Absolutely not, son. No chance. you know, and that wasn't being cruel, it was just reality. I don't want her to have that. When I see your little girl on her pony, I want Nell to have a pony, you know. I
Well,
want,
you can come up any time, yeah, absolutely.
You know, if she comes and says, Dad, I really want to be a ballerina.
Yeah.
It costs money.
Yeah, absolutely,
To be able to compete. So I want to be able to give her all those things, and I want her to look at me and my wife and say, my mum and dad worked really hard for this. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, I went to some counsellor recently, and she basically said, look, your kids, because I always have this fear of Bonnie and Benson not being successful. I think like, oh God, I hope I raise some kids that are workaholics. And she's like, well, bloody hell, I hope they don't work as hard as you. My missus always says, she says they'll have no bloody life. And I'm like, this lady said to me, they either copy straight in your footsteps or they will go polar opposite. They'll do no middle ground. So I'm thinking, I hope they actually copy. But
and that's what people say. I was talking about this at the weekend. Somebody said to me, what's your dream for your children? And I said that she's a hard worker.
Yeah.
And they said,
what? You can't force it.
They said, not that she's happy.
Yeah.
I said, I don't care if she's happy. I wanted to work.
It's crazy that though, isn't it? It's almost like you want them to do you proud as well.
Yeah.
I worry about, obviously my dad's passed and we're the last like Bamforths. And I'm like, oh God, well, I hope she keeps a surname, and thank God I've got a little boy now as well. And do you know what I mean? It's one.
But having a legacy, again, coming from a family legacy, is quite. So the sports psychologist I was speaking to, I was at the Chelsea Hospital in London with the great and the good equestrian riders, and the sports that they'd all competed in the Olympics, and she's their psychologist, and she was talking to them. Most of the athletes that she provides services to are from a family name. So they have that pressure to deliver. My dad won gold, so I've got to win gold. Et
Right, get you.
So we were talking about that. And my granddad was the head of the pit, head of the mine. So he was like,
right.
I don't the
Top
pit,
dog.
the overman of
Yes,
the pit, right?
yeah.
So when he was in the 1930s and 40s, whatever, everybody looked up to him.
Really?
And he was my best man at my wedding. And he did this speech and he said to me, when I was younger, I was a real somebody. And then I got made redundant and I was a nobody. And then little David came along and all of a sudden I was a somebody again. And that's really stuck with me. And for me, being a lister, being his grandson, you know, whatever the people in between my generation and his generation got up to, I feel this sense of duty to make sure that if somebody sees my name on a page, they think he's a decent lad. He's a good lad. You know, he works hard.
It's big shoes to fill, isn't it?
It is, and you know, when my granddad talks to me about crawling through those 2-foot spaces with a lampshade on his head, it makes you feel sick, doesn't it?
Have you been to that coal mining museum and you pitch black? It's awful.
And I think, well, you know what? If I've got to work 14 hours a day, but in luxury, you know, I work in this house all day, every day. I've got nothing to complain about. If I have to work long hours, so be it. I've not got to do that what he was doing, you know. And you know, but carrying on that name, it does rock you to your core sometimes, thinking, well, what are they going to be? And there will be expectations placed on Nell when she's growing up, because they'll say, well, your mum's a ball breaker, your dad's a ball breaker. What are you going to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if she comes out with, I'm going
to doss it off and just mess about, I'll die inside.
What's going on there?
What have we done? Yeah.
My dream for her is that she comes home and she says, you know what, I think there's no money to be made in being employed these days, which is why I spread myself. Partners are self-employed, but when you're a solicitor, you're employed. So I've got the security of being employed, but the freedom of having my own business, which means you can make more money. And the richest people I represent, I don't represent anybody that I would consider to be rich who is employed.
Oh, really?
I think
they've all got their own business.
They've all got their own businesses. They've all had an idea. Nothing glamorous. I once represented a guy who was once a fisherman, and he knew that there was going to be a shortage of cod. So he went and got a business loan and bought a load of frozen fish that was an alternative to cod, waited for a few years for the cod quotas to come in, and then said, I've got a load of fish.
That looks
Anybody
like
want to buy it at a markup?
Brilliant.
Made a fortune. Another guy selling high-vis jackets that he buys for a penny in China or whatever he does, and marks them up. No, and nobody pays any bloody tax. So I get to see people's divorce papers. They complain about politicians using the tax rules for their benefit. Everybody does it. Nobody pays more tax than they're required to pay. But when you're employed, you've got no control over how much tax you pay.
Absolutely. I do encourage. I've got a manager, and I encourage you, obviously, self-employed, bill me for your time. This tax is horrendous. You know what I mean? Because you get punished for doing well.
You do, but you can stay within the tax rules without doing anything dodgy. You know, I pay more tax in a month than my mum earns in a year.
Crazy, isn't it?
which is just bizarre,
Mad.
isn't it?
Just for doing well.
So
and
the
working
idea
your
that
tits
somebody
off.
would then criticise me for using the tax rules well, you know, 5% of the population pays 95% of the tax in this country. I think that's the right.
Yeah,
I might
probably.
be wrong, but it's something like that, right? So I know that I'm paying my dues, and I know I'm then paying then some. You know, so I've no guilt about, you know, working within the rules, but you know, I wouldn't have that luxury if I was PAYE all the time, because it's, you know, the rules dictate what you pay, and you've got no scope for manipulating them. So I think anybody that can start up on what I would say to people though is, do pay your tax.
Yeah, of course.
Declare your income.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to getting a mortgage, or if you do see a business opportunity and you want to get a loan,
No one's touching you if you haven't yet.
if it's all cash, you've got no way of proving it.
Yeah.
And
I know a lot of personal trainers, obviously, and back my day when I first started, it was like I was brought by a scrap man, on scrapyard. So I was a bit like, oh, cash is king. And I'd speak to my accountant. He's like, how much cash do you want to declare? And I'm thinking, well, how much am I supposed to declare? And he's like, well, all of it. I'm like, oh, right, you could have told me that. Do you know what I mean? So you see a lot of people trying to dodge it. You need to pay it, don't you? Do you know
you
what I mean?
do. And it's funny because I had a guy recently came into me and I said, right, we were talking about his family home. I said, how much is family home worth? 2 million. Okay, what's your mortgage on it? I haven't got a mortgage. Okay, what's your tax return? How much are you earning? 12 grand a year.
Yeah, I've got a £2 million house in it.
So I said to him, how much are you actually earning? That's what my tax return says. I said, okay, right, let me rewind. What would your wife say you earn?
Yes.
Well, you know, so again, you always get found out.
Yes, you can't beat the system, can you?
You can't, and you've got to play with a straight bat, I think. And if you do,
You're fine.
you'll be fine.
No. Well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate your time.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I could talk to you for hours.
I was
but
going to say,
probably
maybe
got
get you
enough
back
in
on
there.
again. Yeah.